This conference will now be recorded.
Very good.
We're now recording this meeting, July 15th Police Commission meeting. It is 4:02 p.m. This is Mayor Steve Noble. I'm going to be calling this meeting to order. We could just maybe go ahead and do attendance just so that we can, let folks, if anyone's listening, know that we're all here. So you guys just want to kind of do roll call. So we'll start. Brad Jordan.
Brad Jordan, I'm here.
All right, Kendra.
I'm here.
And Minya.
Here.
And Tony Davis is here as well as our Alderman liaison. Tony.
Hello.
And as we mentioned, longtime Commissioner Grossman, stepped down after our last meeting, and we want to thank him for his service. I think he was commissioner for over 20 plus years, and so thank you to him. And we will, at this point, just as I know we're kind of getting off track on the agenda, but just related to commissioners, I just want to let you know that the Policing Subcommittee is in the process of preparing a recommendation for me to, or recommendations potentially to appoint a new commissioner. I haven't received those yet, but hopefully by our next meeting, we will be able to have a full slate of 5. So I'll keep you updated as we kind of go through that process. I want to, first get started on our agenda for the day. We have a couple of things we need to do first. One is related to the minutes from the last meeting. Did we have a chance to get those out to everybody?
I had the link for the post on it. I don't know if I sent it to everybody or not, but I did put it online.
Okay.
Right. And I just want to clarify, the written minutes have to be put on there as well as the link to the meeting. I don't know how that works with the virtual.
Generally, the audio, video, it transcribes, and so it's actually not only is it video, it's also the transcription. So that's all fine. I just wondered if folks had a chance to review that and if they had any, questions or comments, or if we could approve of that posting. Do I have a motion?
Sorry, audio.
So I was looking for a motion to approve the minutes from the last.
I'll make that motion.
All right.
Second.
Minya, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Great, thank you. Next, I wanted to see if there were any communications that came in between last meeting and this meeting.
Not to me.
Communications yourself yet that you saw? I did notice that at least 2, I think, emails that the commissioners received were related to thank yous from the public in a couple of different scenarios where our officers, help them in specific situations. And so it is really nice that the public is using our kind of police commissioner email list to be able to do that. And I think it's it really is a nice thing for the officers when, after they assist someone to kind of have a follow-up be sent. So it was nice. It's good that we got to see those. And so I know the chief took a moment to also send those to the officers themselves so that they could see that not only did we see the recognition, but that the public actually thanked them. So that was good to see.
Good.
Steve, I have a question. The one we got today, was it today? Yeah, today. It was yesterday. That's the first one we got from Tyrone Wilson. So it looked like we were asking him then to have them fill out one of our forms. Is that going to be our process, or are we just going to give him forms? I mean, we've kind of opened up our form. Our form's available online. I wonder if people are going to go to him, we almost should have him have our forms readily available to him and let them fill the forms out with him,
Agree.
right?
Yes, and so with the Human Rights Commission, we spoke to the County Human Rights Commission and told them that we would send them our forms so that they could have them.
Okay.
And so we've talked to them about how they themselves as an organization, the clergy, other members of the community can act as kind of third parties to be able to accept those forms and or know where they're also where they are on our website in case people want to get directed to our website for them to fill them out. But yes, so we did have that conversation, and we can talk more specifically about the complaint related to that later in executive session. But
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah, I was just questioning the process.
yeah, the actual concept, and
Yeah.
they're really open to it. And so I think we're actually, with Tyrone being the new Human Rights Commissioner, I think it's actually creating a whole new level of communication that we haven't really had with the Ulster County Human Rights Commission before. And so I think that that's a really positive thing.
And also, I'll just reiterate, the clergy do know about where the complaint form is, and because that's a conversation that we've had in the many years past
Oh, good.
in making that available. Because I think Chief, you and I and Modelli, I think, sat down and talked about that several years. And so we brought that to the clergy, and I'll remind them of that as well.
Good. And so I think at this point, Chief, do you have a report for us that you'd like to talk to us a little bit about how things are going at KPD?
Just the update. I know I sent out an email today about another shooting that took place. And I say shooting, it really came in as a shots fired call. Late last night, the officers went around the area, really couldn't come up with anything. None of the cars were present at that area when the call came in. They looked around. There was another call from a neighbor this morning. We went back out with the detectives, and they did find some shell casings on the ground. So at this point, it is verified that there were shots fired. There was a vehicle that got hit. I'll say this. Our detective division is really stretched out pretty thin right now. They're doing everything they can between the homicide, the shooting at Birchwood the other day, the other homicides that we're following up on, plus the day-to-day stuff that they're just catching, a couple of burglaries here and there. We're definitely getting taxed. There's no doubt.
Thank you.
I know there was some overlap because we got a note on our boys club distribution that the one kid that I think was involved in a stabbing, that he might have stabbed somebody, was one of the ones that got shot like last week, right? I assume you're aware that I think there was a kid that was arrested for stabbing another individual or two, one of which was his friend, and then he's one of the ones that was shot. A mere roll through the individual.
I don't know if I should go into that kind of detail while we're in the open session with it. We really haven't shared a lot of the details with the public yet on it, only because right now we're still looking for suspects in that shooting at the Birchwood.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think
Obviously, in general, it's concerning.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that, I want to thank the officers that, especially in the detective division, that are putting in so much extra time and who are really trying to, solve these crimes. I think one of the things that we, have recognized that, it really does take a partnership. And with these most recent incidents, state police has been really wonderful in helping to assist us and have really stepped up. We are not a police department that is designed to handle a lot of these kind of what you consider major crimes. And so it's really been, it's been really helpful for us to be able to have that. But, we are just continuing to, try to get, the message out into the community. And I've had conversations with folks like Dan Whalen at the Boys and Girls Club and some of the other, organizations, is that, especially with our youth, like we can't have them fighting with one another. Especially, and so, we talked about ways to be able to try to get some of our, teens off the street, and with COVID, it has made it so difficult, especially in our parks where we haven't really been able to play basketball, which is such a need for so many of our teens. And so it is really like the perfect storm right now in the community. And so, we're just, again, trying to, put out some messages as best we can through our community groups, and we're just trying to, calm the tensions, and anything we all can do to help do that, please. And if you have any other ideas, let us know, because we are, trying to exhaust all of our options as best we can. Indian.
One of my concerns is, and one of the things I think that's going to get overlooked very easily here with situations like this, is that we have a widening income gap that's exponentially occurring right now with gentrification, especially influx of people coming up from New York, because there's a real estate boom associated with that after COVID as well, and it was already happening before COVID. I'm not trying to soften the blow of anything that happened, but if that's not part of the discussion, then it's not going to be acknowledged that there's a bigger, wider problem going on right now, as people are getting pushed out of the neighborhood, or they're out of their neighborhoods. People are out of work right now. People are going to there's desperation that gets associated with that. And I think there has to be a wider communication. A lot of people are going to just look at this and focus this as just the crime aspect and I see that happen a lot, but there's always a bigger picture, and it needs to be addressed in this context as well, or else it's just there's nothing, it's just going to continue in the direction that we're going.
Yeah, one of the things that thankfully, we were just able to do, as part of the federal CARES Act, just $440,000 was allocated through community development block grant funds to, almost a dozen organizations, in Kingston, to be able to help provide new and additional, programming, everything from, the Boys and Girls Club to Rise Up Kingston to Legal Services of the Hudson Valley to RUPCO.
Yeah, I just saw that. Yeah.
Those are, we want to be able to keep people in their homes. We want to be able to put people to work. We want to be able to, and some of that funding we hope this summer, we'll be able to get to help reduce some of the disparities that are occurring right now, especially related to COVID. They obviously existed before COVID, but it's made, the economy has made it even worse for folks. Does anyone have any other questions for the chief before we move on to some of our unfinished business? All right, great. So one of the things unfinished from last meeting was we had discussed at this meeting appointing the role of secretary and the role of kind of a vice chair in case of me not being able to be present at a meeting and having someone be willing to kind of run the meeting. So first I wanted to start, with the secretary position. As we discussed briefly, this position, has not a large emphasis on note taking per se, because obviously all of our meetings are being visually recorded and transcribed, but more about, making sure that the actions that we're taking, as well as that, so that the public understands where if they want to communicate with the police commission, that there's going to be someone that they can communicate with, and that when they send an email to policecommission@kingston-ny.gov, that they know it's going somewhere, and they know that it's being tracked at least by one of the commission members. And so I'd like to see if there are any nominations. So someone could either nominate someone else, or someone can self-nominate if they would like to be secretary. And so is there an interest out there?
If no one else will, I'll step forward for that. Yeah.
I was going to say I might nominate Minya.
Good one.
So
I second the nomination.
Great.
All right.
All in favor of
Aye.
aye? Any opposed?
Aye.
All right, congratulations, Min. You're now officially the secretary of the Kingston Police Commission.
Okay.
And thank you.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
As we go through this kind of transition process, the chief will be willing to support you in any way that you see fit. And so if any requests come up, if any needs arise, if you need any technical assistance or supplies or materials, whatever you need to kind of do the job, the chief can be your liaison to those resources.
Okay.
And if you have any problems with that, chief, you can come to me.
Okay.
But
Thank you. What was that?
I was saying that if you have any problems with the chief getting any of those resources, you can
Okay. All right, thank you.
And so the next part of this is that I'd like to be able to have a vice chair, someone to serve in my absence. And so is anyone willing to do that glorious job?
I think Brad and I are both saying if
I'm pretty
we'd
sure.
both be willing, but
Yeah, you got it.
Yep.
no, oh wait, what just happened? What just happened, Brad?
Yeah, I'm either way. Seriously, if you want someone to do it, I'd be glad to do it. I'd be glad for Kendra to do it. It doesn't matter to me whatsoever.
So for now, why don't we, Kendra already said she'd do it. So let's, and she didn't even know.
Can we just entertain a motion for that rather than it saying that I said I would do it?
I make the motion for Kendra to do it. How's that?
Do you have a second on that? I'll second that. Do all in favor?
Someone is having
Aye.
Audio issues. Aye.
Opposed? Great, congratulations. All right, so up next.
just for the record, you're going to be here.
Yes.
Okay.
For any other unfinished business that anyone's aware of at this point? I don't think that we had any to-do items other than even though we did talk about the resolution 116 for the police accountability, we're going to put that in new business because it's officially now been, if you will, referred to the police commission. So I just kind of want to give everybody an update. So at the Common Council meeting in July, the Common Council passed resolution 116, which has 4 key areas that they asked us to adopt. It's begins mostly in the beginning with a kind of an overview that the police commission will do everything that it can to make our procedures and processes open to the public and available on, say, a website. It then goes into talking about how we will what kind of compositions the police commission should strive for, the appointment process, some of which we've already started to be able to have a better dialogue with the Common Council related to the appointment process, as well as training and conflicts of interest. Those are the areas that it covers next. The training in particular is something that we'll come back to, but there is resources that the Common Council has granted to us in March, April timeframe that would allow us to do both commission training as a board, but also allow other members of the public or the Common Council to be involved in with us on that training. That's yet to be set up, but now we can use these guidelines and processes to allow us to set up the trainings. That again, a lot of these anti-racism, implicit bias trainings are best done in person. So I hope that very soon we will be able to do some of those, but there are some that I think we can do virtually. And so we'll start with some of those as best we can. And then it kind of goes into talking about how and the complaint process should run. These are, types of bylaws that we've never had before, and we've never really had a written down complaint process. Some of the pieces we already have here and are doing. And so what I would like to do today is to officially adopt this as part of our police manual and guidelines and bylaws for the police commission, which we would then post on our website. And then the Common Council has asked us to report back to them on a kind of quarterly basis as to how and what progress we're making. We know that this is not instantly going to be able to all occur as we adopt this today, but that we will report the significant progress we're making. And so the first reporting period for us would be October 1st. And so, by October, I know that we all will strive to get as much of this implemented as possible. And this will be an opportunity for us to, I think show some really strong progress, early this fall. So does anyone have any specific questions on this? I know that I've sent this out for folks to review and look at, but I wanted to know, does anyone have any questions, concerns before we were to entertain a motion to have this be part of our, practice and policy?
I guess for me, my question would be in terms of transparency and going into executive session at some point for the interest of the community is like focusing on paring down what we're keeping behind closed doors and what the public can have access to. Some of that because I'm new, I don't know what capacity we're completely allowed to do that in, but personally, I would think that there'd be a lot of people that would want to actually have more access to what goes on during executive session.
Sure, and so there are lots of, state rules and guidelines around executive
Right.
session. And so, we could definitely, we can go over that and send you some of the
Once we're in.
the details on, but in general, anytime we're discussing personnel matters where we're naming an actual individual, we have to be in executive session to discuss and talk about those issues related. And so that goes for any of the kind of, whether it's hiring, firing, disciplining. There is now, with the repeal of 50A, it allows disciplinary records and things to be released at a much easier and much more transparent process. And you'll see that in this document. However, when it comes to actually keeping the rights of both the accused and the accuser confidential is covered under a host of other, federal and state privacy protection laws. And so we still will have to be have to continue to be careful about that. And I would, but there's lots of, guidance out there on that. And so we can definitely share that. And I think it could be important too for us to even save and include those documents and links on our own website so that people can see when they hear that we're going into executive session for 2 hours, this is why, and this is what happens,
Okay.
what we're allowed to do in the public and what we're not.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone have any other questions or about this resolution? And so, hearing none, what I would like to do is I'd like to entertain a motion to accept the guidelines and practices for police accountability, process, and community representativeness of Kingston Police Commission. And so do I have someone?
So moved.
All right, thank you, Kendra. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Thank you, Brad. All in favor?
Got it.
All right.
Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
All right, great. And so that is now official practice and policy for the Kingston Police Commission. One of the first things we'll do is we'll make sure to get this up on our website, and then we will work toward each of these things. And again, I'll also give you reports as part of these next police commission meetings as to where I am and the different pieces that I kind of cover on here in terms of the appointment process and all of that, as well as we go through the complaint process. We'll be doing these things together now and following kind of this this process.
Steve, Minya had a question, and I think she's correct. Shouldn't the policies and procedures be posted on our policies and procedures existing are open to the public, correct?
Yeah, my understanding is that is, and Chief, do you want to talk to where
Existing policies that we're responsible for overseeing.
or where we are with that?
Yes. So currently, our general orders or general operations manual contains policies and procedures, and they kind of intertwine. Currently, we're in the last phase of Lexipol, of using Lexipol. It's a private company that essentially most agencies use now in New York State. They take into consideration local concerns, current policies, procedures, accreditation standards, and they kind of roll that all into one. The advantage I think that we have with them is that we're kind of finishing up the last of it. They have, at their recommendation, they recommend that we separate out procedures from policies and post policies online. The only reason they say that is because some of the procedures do have safety mechanisms in there for police response. Certain codes, certain procedures, for lack of better terms, on how officers will respond. Certainly the commission has full view of any of that, but some of them could compromise officer safety when responding to the call. So that's why they say to remove the procedures from the policies and only post the policies online. There's nothing that say that we can't go through that now manually to some degree and do that. I know the ones I've looked at other agencies, the ones that usually get the most interest, the ones that are most concerned, the use of force policy. That's something that we could easily put online. The complaint policy, the complaint reporting system that we have online. Some of the duties and responsibilities within each of the positions within the department. Basic overview of what we have in the commission, structure of the department, that type of thing. Body cam policy, those are the ones I think that most of the public is interested in. The ability, the policy regulating the officer coming and going to work. I don't know if that is of real interest right now or how applicable it would be to what's going on out there. But that's certainly, if you give me the list, we can go through it. If there's anything procedurally that could be of a problem, we could bring it back to the commission, make you, have you decide if that's something you want online. But from there, we can do that. I mean, certainly piecemeal it a little bit at a time until Lexipol is complete with everything. Our idea with the Lexipol system is to get everything done internally and then hand over the entire document to the police commission and have them review it. I know it's a lengthy process. There's quite a bit.
Excellent.
But then you would have the availability to kind of look it all over. Again, this is being examined and combined with our current policies and procedures, accreditation standards, which I should take a moment to mention that we are coming up for a reassessment. This is a 5-year mark. So we're shooting for a reassessment sometime in September. We have assessors that will arrive ahead of time, look at our policies and procedures, and it is going to be a transitional time, knowing that some of the policies and procedures that we've adopted in the past are incorporated into Lexipol now. So, but at that point, the commission gets full review. I believe they're assembling the PDFs now, just to make it easier to kind of move around. You'll have access to all that. If there's any concerns, you can put the comments in there. And the commission we can go back to Lexipol and have changes made or additions and subtractions, whatever it might be.
Okay. And for clarity's sake, for the public, Lexipol is a risk. A risk. Sorry, are you? I can't tell if you froze. It's a risk assessment company that is their job is. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. We just can't see you that well because you keep freezing, but we can hear you clear as day. So you can just keep talking.
You can hear me, okay. So if you can still hear me, I'm just trying to get clarity for the public and understanding who Lexipol or what Lexipol is, which is a risk assessment company, right? Their job is essentially to protect you guys ultimately, right, from basically cases being brought. That's generally there, and then also to help write the policies and procedures manual for you guys and streamline it. Is that my understanding? Or sorry, is my understanding correct?
Correct.
So it's hard with the freezing and the.
So Lexipol does risk management. Gordon Graham is a retired California Highway Patrol captain. He started the company years ago. It's used throughout the country. It really is an automated system for keeping track of the policies and procedures. What's nice about that particular system is on a local level, on a state level, Chief Mike Rinaldi, he's retired, I believe, just above Albany. The name of the agency escapes me, but he's a retired chief from up there. He now works for their legal team, and he, because he's an accreditation assessor as well, is able to make sure that we meet all the qualifications that the state requires as part of our accreditation standard. So it is, in addition to what Lexipol does, which is a review of the policy and procedures, but the truth of the matter is they are and I say ours, the city's policies and procedures. We determine what we want in there or not. I'll just use a very small example, accreditation standard. One of them says that there will be a policy addressing warning shots. Believe it or not, that's a required accreditation standard, that the agency has a policy requiring some sort of attention or outlining of warning shots. In Kingston, warning shots are not permitted. That is our policy here. I have been to other agencies as an assessor, and they have said warning shots are okay. We don't find that to be okay here. We had an incident, I want to say back in the 50s, where an officer did fire a warning shot and actually hit the subject and not intended to. So that is probably the reason back then why that stopped. But in addition to that, they produce what's called a daily training bulletin, and we'll put that out there as a refresher for the officer to allow them to make sure that they are aware of the policies and procedures. There will be frequent tests that have to be completed within the month. So when they say, here's a scenario, you're driving the vehicle, such and such, what should you do? And if the officer answers it correctly, it just moves on to the next question. If there's an incorrect answer, then it goes right to the policy and brings it up to the officer. Here's what the proper policy or procedure is in that case. So I think it automates a lot of the things that we've been trying to do over the years. The truth is we just don't have the manpower administratively to do what Lexipol is going to be coming in here to do for us. Oh, did we lose you? Min, you can hear us?
I think we may have lost her.
Oh, sorry. In case she can still hear us.
I don't know if we lost her.
I don't know either. She's just to give a time frame. We hope within the next couple of months to be completely wrapped up. We're just finalizing some of the components within our policies and procedures. So we figure in a couple of months, the commission should have the entire packet available to them. And I think at that point, however long it takes to get this done, it's just the importance of having it. What's also nice about that is once we post it on the website, it is somewhat automated and easy to search. So if an individual online wants to search what the policy is on body cameras, they just have to enter that information and follow through with it that way.
Thank you. That was helpful for me.
And Chief, when do you think the Lexipol process complete? By the end of this year?
Yes. Yeah, we actually hope to try to get it in place prior to the accreditation assessment. That doesn't look like a reality, only because we're looking at a September timeframe, third quarter timeframe for the review for accreditation. It's not going to happen. We may be done internally here with that review, but the commission will take a while. It's a tremendous number of policies and procedures. I mean, our binder's 5 inches thick, double-sided paper, so it's quite a bit.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that update. I think that was really super helpful for folks. So I think that one other new business item that I wanted to just mention was that as part of our announcement of signing at least my part, signing that legislation, that resolution that the council worked on, we also announced the formation of a new council or task force, we called it, related to, police accountability. We called it, a re-envision public safety task force. This is something that is mandated by the governor. It's something that we, are excited to be able to get started. We plan to have a variety of stakeholders involved, including the Common Council, who's done a lot of work in this area, and be able to work with the community to come up with how and what we would like to have as a kind of a public safety vision for the future, and what changes we would like to see, or where would we like to put more resources, and if there are certain areas in the realm of community policing that we feel are not funded enough, or if there's areas that we feel are overfunded that we want to transition funds to, that will kind of all be part of that process. And we officially have to have that process done by April 1st of 2021. But in reality, it really needs to be done by the end of the year to be able to give the Common Council time to adopt the local law and have public hearings related to it. And so we've kind of got 5 to 6 months. And so we hope to be able to, get interested individuals, recommendations from the council and the policing subcommittee, and, the general public that are interested, and get that together, in the next few weeks, a month ahead, and, really be able to dive into it this fall. And so that's kind of my status update on that project, which again, we as a commission I hope will be involved with, and I hope that you all help support that process, as we go through it. Does anyone have any questions on that particular? Okay, does anyone have any other new business that they would like to talk about at this point? All right, so hearing no other new business items, there are 2 items in executive session that we wanted to be able to do. One is the police candidate update, and another is related to a police complaint that we received. And so we'd like to be able to discuss both of those in executive session. And so can I have a motion to enter into executive session? And if it's okay with everyone, I'd like to also, as part of that motion, invite Tony Davis to join us, if that's okay with everyone.
I'll make that motion. We go to executive session and invite liaison Alderman Davis.
Do I have a second?
Support.
Okay.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. And so I think everybody has the executive session link, and so we'll see you there in a second.
This conference will now be recorded.
All right, I think we all made it back on. So can I have a motion to exit executive session?
So moved.
Thank you, Brad. Second, Kendra, I saw there. Okay.
I'll second it. I was muted.
Yeah. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, great. So we're now back into regular session, and I think we have one motion related to coming out of executive session related to the hiring of an officer. And so can I have a motion on that?
I'll make the motion to hire Kyle Van Valkenburg.
Okay, do I have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right. Hearing none opposed, motion passes. I appreciate everybody's time today, and we will see you again next month, and I'll keep you updated as things change.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Have a good day, everybody.
Bye.